Welcome to the Victoria Bridge Centennial celebrations. Today's events have been proudly brought to you by the Perry Foundation and Hamilton City Council. Vibrant and progressive, Hamilton is one of New Zealand's fastest growing cities. Flowing right through the middle is the mighty Waikato River. This great river has always provided her tangata whenua with natural resources like eels, whitebait and mullet. The Waikato is tupuna to Waikato Tainui and is the mauri of the region. Flowing for over 425 kilometres, she's Aotearoa's longest river. She flows from the south side of Mount Ruapehu into Lake Taupo to Hooker Falls, then down under the Bridge Street Bridge and on to the Tasman Sea at Te Puaha o Waikato. The 9 dams along the Waikato generate more than 4,000 gigawatt hours of electricity per year. That's about 13% of New Zealand's annual electricity usage. Along the length of the river, her waters irrigate the fertile soils of the Waikato region, making it one of the richest agricultural areas in the world. In pre-European times, the Waikato River was a highway. She saw many types of waka transporting food, visitors and the deceased, as well as war parties. As European settlers arrived, they made use of our beautiful river, travelling by steam, oar and sail. The 4th Waikato Militia initially settled on the eastern side of Hamilton. The river helped to promote trading between the east and west sides of the city. A punt connected both banks of the river. It was a crude yet innovative piece of workmanship, but many townsfolk were injured while using it. Horses would kick people overboard, and it sank more than once. Dr. Beale, a well-known Hamiltonian of the time, was often called upon to revive people who had fallen into the river. As Hamilton grew, the rivalry between the east and west banks grew along with it. Both competed as to where the centre of the city should be located. In the 1870s, it was decided that a bridge should be built across the river. However, this was going to cost a significant amount of money. The government wouldn't pay for it, and the town couldn't afford it. So residents of both banks signed a petition to unite their townships in the eyes of the Crown, and on 27 December 1877, Hamilton was proclaimed a borough. Borough status enabled Hamilton to obtain a loan of £14,000, the equivalent of over $2 million today. 1878 saw the first mayoral elections, and Isaac Vaialu was elected. Isaac's first mayoral act was to commission a bridge, and in 1879 the Union Bridge was christened, unifying East and West. Vaialu said, "This was a wonderful day, East and West coming together in union." Initially, the Union Bridge was a toll bridge, but after about 5 years, the toll was waived. The limitations of the bridge also began to cause problems, as it was only one lane, and opposing traffic had to give way until its single lane was clear. The Union Bridge was built out of kauri and was bolted together. As time went by, it became very rickety. Horses would ride over the bridge, leaving manure behind them. This was swept away from the side of the bridge and eventually rotted away its foundations. During a large flood in 1907, a log was swept against the eastern pier. A crowd of people gathered expecting to see the bridge collapse, but the log was safely removed. By the early 1900s, the Union Bridge was an unsafe bridge to be crossing. Heavy loads were banned, and it got so dangerous that just 1 or 2 cattle were sent over ahead of the herd to see if it would stay up. Enough was enough, and another petition was begun, this time for a new bridge. Funding and building a new bridge became a contentious issue in the election of 1905. The sitting councillors had interests in keeping the status quo and were opposed to borrowing money for a new bridge. However, people began to revert back to taking their cattle across the river on punts rather than going across the rickety old Union Bridge. After much discussion, the councillors eventually decided to ask the voters to sanction a loan of £24,000 for a replacement bridge. The bond to fund the new bridge passed with ease, and the building of the Victoria Bridge began. The Victoria Bridge was designed by Mr. Fulton, an engineer from Wellington, and Mr. Fraser was in charge of construction. The build was a huge engineering feat in its day and was completed without damming the river. To avoid the problems caused by the sandy bottom of the river, the issues with piling which had plagued the Union Bridge, it was decided that a single-span arch would be constructed. The arch is made of British steel, manufactured by the Cleveland Bridge Company, and is more than 100 metres long. After being fabricated in the UK, the arch was brought to New Zealand by boat, then brought up the river on a gunboat paddle steamer. It was then assembled on site. This type of arch was unusual for such a low bridge, being only 18 metres above the Waikato River. The 152.6 metre long bridge consists of a main arch span of 103.6 metres, plus two end girder spans of 12.3 metres and two of 12.2 metres. The original deck had big timber railway sleepers laid across the full width of the bridge, and then rock on top of that. It was finished off with soil so that the cattle could be driven across it, walking without causing the hooves any problems. Hand-cut and laid stone work went all the way up Bridge Street on both sides. Running across the full length of the bridge, there are 4 beams. These were spaced for future fitting of tramway rails, but the rails were never fitted and the tramway never used. Records show that when completed, there was no official opening of the new Victoria Bridge, but on September 10, 1910, Father Joseph Darby rode across it in his buggy. The Union Bridge was for the unification of Hamilton East and West. The Victoria Bridge was known as the Traffic Bridge, due to the traffic going across it. Not long after the bridge had been opened, the foundations on the brewery side of the bridge started settling into the ground. The base of the arch started spreading apart and the centre of the arch started dropping. By about 1920, there was quite a marked sag. So to fix the issue, grout was injected into the ground behind and all around that foundation on the western side. The Victoria Bridge has been redecked on 2 occasions. Firstly in 1937 when a walkway was also added, and then again in 1992. On this occasion, the redecking took 14 weeks, and during this time the bridge was closed. The replacement deck was fabricated in Napier, brought up by truck, then rolled out across the bridge. The Victoria Bridge continues to play a major part in the everyday life of Hamilton and marks the southern end of the city. Now in its 71st year, the annual 5 Bridges River Swim passes under the Victoria Bridge. The organisers of the event say that, unlike ocean swimming, the Waikato River guarantees no jellyfish, no sharks, and no salt water to chafe the skin under a protective wetsuit. They make no guarantees about the odd inquisitive eel. The bridge is also linked to royalty. Prince Charles has even trod upon it. Local legend claims that during the 1930s, Mad Mac McGregor, an ex-World War I RAF fighter pilot, flew a biplane under the arch of the bridge. Kids lined up on the banks of the river and watched as he looped and spun around the bridge's span. When the Karapiro hydro scheme was being commissioned, the river was virtually closed off. This allowed people to bypass the bridge altogether and walk across the riverbed. Some people still refer to the bridge as the Traffic Bridge, but to many it is now the Bridge Street Bridge. For the past 100 years, the Victoria Bridge has played a very important role for Hamilton. Communities on the eastern and western sides have been brought together, and it will continue to serve as a key gateway to the city.